I said, yeah, it's just, she said, Holly, do you need money? Now, yes. At the time, no. Student loans. My name is Holly Gomez and this is The Art of Not Fitting In, episode 5. This episode is called... Oh shit, what's it called? Oh, do I look straight in this? Here and queer. So this is going to be my journey of coming out. Let's really start from the start. In an episode about me growing up and being a tomboy and all these things and playing sports and peeing standing up, wearing my brother's clothes, skateboarding, playing rugby. If these things weren't enough to maybe indicate that I was in fact gay, I don't know what else could it be more telling. But anyway, I suppose when I was younger I didn't really understand either sexuality. I never thought about it. When I say younger, I'm talking about when I was a kid, you know, around 5, 6, 7 kind of age. So let's start from high school. And I loved PE, treated it like the Olympics. I've always loved sport for that matter, as I've mentioned. And thankfully I was put in a mixed class for PE so I could take it really, really seriously. Not from the point of view so that I could flirt with them, but because I could compete with them. So, and usually you'll find that most girls in PE class don't really want to push it too hard because then you end up sweating and, you know, your makeup's running, etc., etc. I was a PE class warrior, to tell the truth, because I absolutely loved it. I never wore makeup when I was younger. I remember in class or at lunchtime, all the girls would stand up simultaneously and go to the bathroom to put on makeup, which would take the majority of the lunch break. But I was, which is ironic, I was blessed with good skin. If you've watched the episode about topical steroid withdrawal, if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is. But they do say pride comes before a fall. So you shouldn't take anything for granted. And I remember I used to get complimented on my skin. I didn't ever used to wash my face with any products, just water. I never moisturised. So when girls would ask me, oh, like, what do you do? I was like, oh, just lots of water. I drink lots of water, which to be honest has never changed. And I think it definitely helps. But if only that were the answer, having gone through the past 4 years. Anyway, that's irrelevant. I never wore makeup just because, not because I had relatively nice skin, but just because it was never something I was interested in. And to be honest with you, never something that appealed to me, or I didn't really know how to apply it. I still don't. And I still need to get Molly to do my makeup before any sort of event or social gathering, wedding, etc., which also puts so much stress on her because I actually hate getting my makeup done. I really don't enjoy it, the process. So yes, sorry for that, Molly. I know that is unbearable for you. I found guys attractive, but I never wanted to be with one. I could objectively, and still do, can see the beauty in the male form, but that was the extent of it. And I think in hindsight I realised, because I used to really fancy Justin Bieber. And the drummer from Busted, and the main singer Charlie from Busted. And who else did I really like? Oh, the drummer from Love Actually. But I realised in hindsight it's because I wanted to be them. I didn't want to be with them. But I've only come to that realisation with hindsight. And I was obsessed with short, spiky hair with blonde tips. I don't think I could have ever got away with that haircut, but I think I was tempted. maybe that's my next cut. We'll see for the next chapter in my life. An Ellen DeGeneres. That's my kind of experience in school. Then I got to, let me think. I really, really fancied Jessie J. Like, massively. And my obsession was extreme. And I remember I got meet and greet tickets, starstruck, and I didn't say a word because I was so overwhelmed. And I think it was after seeing the music video Do It Like a Dude, which really sold it for me. But I thought it was just her. I thought I just was fixated on her and they're interested in her. That would be the extent of my interest. I wasn't correct about that. So I thought, oh, well, when I leave high school, because she kind of boomed around the time of being in high school, I thought, okay, well, when I'm out of high school, I'll no longer have any sort of interest in women. And then I started watching movies like Gia with Angelina Jolie and later on Killing Eve and all these kind of things that I was kind of like, oh, okay, it's definitely not just Jessie J. I also was never particularly involved in big girl groups, or I realised that it's just not it's not for me. I'm not really much of I'm not a gossip. I'm not a gossip and I don't like speaking about people. I like watching reality TV shows like Made in Chelsea and The Kardashians, but it's because I can watch drama from a distance and I'm kind of getting a fix, but I'm in no way emotionally involved. I realised that I kind of was not fitting into the mould of the stereotypical girl in high school. I also dressed however I wanted to dress. I remember I went through a real Urban Outfitters and American Apparel stage, and I would wear all my own clothes to school, like just Vans and turned up black trouser chino type things and then baggy jumpers. And that's when my head teacher said, oh, when are you going to your Bohemian college? So, which to be fair, she had a point because I was a bit ridiculous. But then actually I really got into studying and doing well and getting good grades, and that became really, really important to me. That wasn't the cool thing. It's funny though, by the time you got to 5th and 6th year, you realise that actually it was cooler to be smarter than to be popular. So that kind of served me well in the end, but not really at the beginning or throughout high school. And I went through this phase of dressing really alternative indie. And I think that's the same time as I was really interested in Jessie J. So this was all happening at the one time. And then it kind of dawned on me, oh, maybe it's quite obvious I have an interest in women. And because of that, then by the time I got to around 5th year, I started dressing really, really chic. And my email address used to be you'renotchanel@icloud.com, because I thought I was Coco Chanel, and I called my mini Coco. And I had Vogue on the back that I'd taken from, because you can get Vogue Range Rovers, I'm sure it is. And I took the Vogue from the back, like ordered these letters online to put on my car. I realised I was overcompensating for the fact that obviously I was closeted, and I had to make a point that actually I was really, really straight, which is kind of very timely with the new series called Overcompensating, which is really, really good. And I've been told that Charlie XCX is in it, but I haven't actually got to that point. I was dressing kind of like a middle-aged woman in hindsight, and that wasn't me. But I I was trying to fit in. I was trying to fit in to what I thought was straight presenting, because I kind of knew that I was having these different feelings and experiences from other girls. And then I kind of thought, oh God, well, I'll need to go back into a box and hide amongst this armour of Chanel. I mean, none of it was real. Funny story about Chanel. I bought one time, it was off of Etsy. It was a little Chanel template, but I thought it was a badge, but it was just a PDF download file for you to print out. Anyway, that was a waste of money. It kind of takes me to the end of school. As I say, I became really obsessed with trying hard, teacher's pet, prefect, head prefect, editor of the school end of year yearbook, and I called it Wogue because our school was called Wood Farm. And again, I'll insert a photo of this, but this was me really thinking that I was going to get a call from Anna Wintour any moment to be the editor of Vogue. So again, that was kind of foreshadowing. I always had an interest in magazines, and I actually ended up becoming an editor of a magazine, not quite Vogue, but close, In Focus. I'm sure you'll have heard of it. Yeah, so now I feel like I've kind of got my fix of my editorial career, and now I'm looking for the next thing. Became really obsessed as well with this yearbook. As I say, I really did think I was Anna Wintour, and that marks the end of my high school journey. So I'll take you on to university, where I ultimately came out, albeit I feel like I came out when I was about 4 years old, when I was dressing like a boy and wanted to be a boy and all these things. Went to uni, and I then realised it wasn't just Jessie J that I had a crush on. So that was hard to terms with. It's funny now because I suppose I'm so far removed from that stage in my life, because it was, 10 years ago. I'm 28. This was 18. I was kind of grappling with all these new feelings and experiences, which at the time felt really, really daunting. But it's so funny because now it just seems it's part of my being. It's not my personality though, so I suppose I'm not defined by my sexuality, and I never really talk about it because it's just a part of me amongst many other parts of me. I moved to uni, wasn't just Jessie J that I was infatuated with, and I in fact realised that I did prefer women to men in a romantic way. So I met this friend of mine, one of my best friends, called Jack, who actually also was studying at St Andrews. Hadn't yet met at this point, but we'd come back in first year during Halloween, and I'd only been there for September, October, just over a month, and I was really, really struggling with St Andrews actually. It was very, very different to what I was used to, and I felt like I didn't fit in. Lots of people had come from private school, kind of knew each other, so there was already cliques forming. Yeah, I really actually did struggle during my first year. Ultimately, by the end of it, I absolutely loved it, but at the beginning it was hard, and I'm also kind of experiencing all these different feelings and have no one really to talk to about them or share them or feel comfortable enough. Went to uni still closeted and feeling like I couldn't really be myself. So met this guy, Jack, who was at Strathclyde Union, met him at the bar, and I saw that he presented his matric card, I'm sure they're called, and I turned and I looked at him, and firstly, I'm sure he was dressed up as Gomez Adams, and then I saw that he had a St Andrews card, and so I said, oh wow, are you, well I was pissed at this point, but I was like, are you Gomez Adams? And I can't remember what he said. I think he was actually just a zombie. I'd need to check that. I'm sure he was a zombie. And then he said, well, yeah, I go to St Andrews, we got chatting. Then fast forward to being at uni. So I didn't realise, but he was studying psychology and art history, the exact same degree as me. he actually is using his degree and is studying a PhD, so I'm very, very proud of him. And I'm doing this. Saw him in lectures, we became quite friendly. I worked at one of the bars in St Andrews, then he got a job at the same bar, and the rest is history. And had we both not been gay, we would have probably married one another. But I think our sexualities kind of got in the way of that. And I always actually said to him, if we're not with someone /engaged /married by 30, then we will ultimately be together. So, I mean, the clock is ticking. Molly, watch your back. Watch your back. We became really, really close, ended up living in the same flat together. And it was actually him that I came out to first. I remember we were walking through the Laid Braes in St Andrews, and I can't remember the exact conversation, but I just remember opening up to him and telling him, and it was just so liberating and freeing. And I couldn't have asked for a better person to have confided in during that period. Also, thankfully, I met another girl who I gelled with really, really quickly. And we were both from Glasgow, and we were sharing sort of accommodation with a lot of people from Edinburgh. So we both felt quite left out, and we both individually thought that every single person that was sharing our accommodation knew one another, until we met each other and realised that we gelled very quickly. And we were able to really confide in one another and just be there for one another. And it's funny because during the time it was really, really hard, but now I'm so far removed from that whole experience that now to me is just quite comedic. I remember my mum came to visit me at uni, and we'd gone out for dinner, and I remember I was trying to build up the courage to tell her, and I was really nervous. We were having a chippy, so that was lovely. And actually, sexuality came up in the conversation, and she said to me directly, she said, "Oh, but you would tell me if you were gay, wouldn't you?" And I was like, yeah, of course I would. Yeah, absolutely. And then I remember I went to the toilet and I felt like, oh no, I can't tell her now. Then I said, "Oh, should we just go a walk?" She was like, "Yeah, sure." And this time it's like 10 p.m. and she was ready for bed. So we were walking, and I was like trying to build up the courage to say something. And I said, "So I've got something to tell you," kind of trying to calm myself down. And she was getting a bit worried, and she's like, "What is it? You can tell me whatever. Is everything okay?" I said, yeah, it's just, she said, "Holly, do you need money?" Now, yes. At the time, no, student loans. I said, no, it's not that. And I said, "Oh, I think that I'm gay." I think because I built it up so much, she was actually so fine. And it's funny, now she's like, "Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think it adds a bit of interest and quirk to your character." I remember then my dad found out, and he said, "Oh, well, yeah, I knew that." But whether or not he did, I don't know. Then my brothers ended up finding out, and one of my brothers went around the house just shouting lesbian. That's a kind of dynamic in the relationship we have, that there's maybe not so much depth to that one. It's funny when these things become really, really stressful and you're worried about them. And here I am now. I'm very openly proud of myself and my journey. And I think I'm so lucky that I've got such supportive and open-minded family, friends that it was never really a huge deal. And actually, as soon as I sort of came out, and to be honest, I didn't really tell many people. I think all just kind of, I let it all naturally and organically be passed on, because I didn't really feel like it was necessarily news. Other than for my mum, I didn't feel like it was a big deal. And it then, thereafter that, I had the best uni experience ever. Working at the bar with Jack was one of the best times of my life, and it was so freeing, and I felt so comfortable and confident in my own skin. And I think because I'd maybe suppressed it for a few years, it was the first time I felt that I could really breathe, and I had such a huge weight off my shoulders because I wasn't being anyone or anyone else other than myself. This whole experience has shown that the art of not fitting in, and rather than being worried and apprehensive about the fact that my sexuality could have isolated me and I didn't necessarily fit into the norm, by fully embracing it, it's been one of the single best things that I could possibly have done. So whether or not this is something that you can relate to, or you just enjoy this story, then that's great. But maybe this might help someone who's actually struggling with it and who's fearing that they might be judged, or it'll change what people think of you and how you're perceived and all these things. And I really believe that if someone will judge you for it, then that's a reflection of themselves, unfortunately, and really they don't deserve to be in your life, and they kind of showed your true colours, and you deserve more than that. So that's my story. That's basically my coming out story, and I've been in a very healthy, happy relationship for 5 years. So I'm very, very lucky. I think my parents, or I think more my mum's worry initially was that I think there's a lot of stigma around the lack of stability maybe within a homosexual relationship. But I suppose I'm testament that that's not the case. Also living in 2025, and things are progressing so much, and I know that I'm so lucky to have been born into this time period where we are much more progressive and open-minded, and being yourself is not a crime. So I know that I'm very, very lucky to have had such an easy experience with it. And I also know that I live in a part of the world where it is acceptable, because I know that's not the case everywhere. And thankfully people are changing that and paving the way, and that we've got people who activists and people who stand up for rights. I know that we've got a long way still to go, but I know that the dynamic and the landscape is changing for the best, and for that I'm really, really grateful. If you enjoyed this, if you could relate to any of this, if you're struggling with it, I hope that maybe some of what I've said might help you and how you feel about yourself. This is Holly Gomez, and this is The Art of Not Fitting In, episode 5. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Bye.